Hello and welcome to another Crypto Club and Digital Assets weekly catch-up on Zoom. It is Sunday, the 2nd of March, 2025. Now, as is always the case, never quite know what we're going to be talking about. Lots of people joining us this evening, so we'll see what we end up discussing. Most weeks we talk about blockchain, DeFi, NFTs, ICOs, STOs, TGs, any other three-letter acronym really. Sessions are open to novices and experts alike, so if you're just learning all these curious acronyms, what they actually mean, and stick around and see what you can learn. If you're more experienced or you're running a project, then come on and join us for the Gone in 3 Minutes session, where you get 180 seconds to talk about your project without the aid of slide, presentation deck or anything. Just talk it through. Anyway, with that, let's see who's going to come join us today. My word, there's so many people joining, I don't know who to say hello to first. Maybe the regulars to begin with. So, hey Ken, hey Gabriella. We're joined as well by David, by Annie, another regular who's just getting connected at the moment, and someone who's on a phone who's determined to show us that they've got an empty bottle of beer as well. That's no bad thing, is it? Great start to a session. Hey, and Lightning Works, Jeff, hello there.
How are you doing?
Hey,
I just saw this. It just happened to be at the exact right moment.
fantastic. Brilliant, that's cool. Jeff, maybe we'll start straight away then. For those who don't know you, maybe you want to introduce yourself and tell us where your interest lies.
Oh yeah, so I've been in crypto since 2014. I'm an American. I grew up in Seattle, California, but I've lived in Costa Rica for 20 years. And before I was full-time in crypto, I have a wellness and yoga center that I still have here. It's my other business. So I've been in crypto. I founded a cryptocurrency in 2017 called Divi. It was a top 100 coin. We went as high as top 60s and 320 million market cap. And we partnered with La Liga, the football league. So we did really well for a while, but it's seen better days, let's put it that way. Although it's still active.
Okay.
But we did an ICO in 2017, and I lived in Puerto Rico for 2 years, so I got to meet all the people there and all the Illuminati of crypto, right? All the Americans anyway that live there, and I've been to Satoshi Roundtable a few times, and
Okay.
that kind of thing. Which is I think how I got into this. I think I met James Bowater was at Satoshi and invited me in there.
Fantastic. Well, welcome aboard, and thanks for the intro. It's really, really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, James is a brilliant connector. He hosts some really good events in the UK, and he facilitates a lot of connections. And
And as you can see behind me, I have a Web3 comic book and games company. So I'm very focused on comics and stories. So I really love stories of different kinds. So I've been developing technology for that.
Nice.
I was wondering, by the way, Jeff, when I saw your background, I was about to say, are you also into games?
Yeah, so I have a games company, and my partner is from the UK actually, and comics also. So we do a bunch of different things, and we have our own wallets, a lot of different tech. But I love everything to do with stories and games.
Cool. Excellent. Well, welcome aboard, and being interesting to explore the conversation further this evening, or in your case, I guess this morning.
Yeah, yeah, it's about noon. Yeah, 1 o'clock for me here.
Okay, not so bad. Great. Okay, we're joined by David as well. Hello, David. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, good evening. Good to be with you. Yeah, I'm a former NBA 8 from the Judge before it changed its name. Good old days. And I've been basically working with the United Nations and in development much of my life. And obviously came across Bitcoin and crypto through that process. Right now, no significant projects ongoing, but at one stage, we did launch NFTs to support women's economic empowerment, which was a very interesting experiment, trying to help women reach new markets and new financial streams. Right now, I'm very happily, I took early retirement last year, and I'm really enjoying learning a lot and moving around, playing different things. So thanks ever so much.
Cool. So I'm really curious. I'll ask straight away then, the women's empowerment and an NFT. How did that work?
Yes. I was running UN Women in Bosnia Herzegovina at the time. And obviously, one of the challenges for women artists in countries where you really don't have access to markets which are willing to pay a living price for creative art is how do you secure a living salary or wage? NFTs have that magical opportunity to cross borders. So back in 22, I believe it was, late 22, we really got the ball rolling. That was obviously after the time of the NFT craze. And most of the artists involved were able to sell artwork and get a reasonable return for their art. It was a pilot project. And as you can imagine, there's a lot of skepticism, which I would expect. But obviously the world is changing, and I've got no doubt that although NFTs are on the back burner, I'm sure they'll come back in much more routine usage, tokenization, tickets, etc.
I was going to say, I've seen many cycles in the crypto world already where things keep getting reinvented and go through iterations, and I'm sure NFTs, exactly as you say. I mean, we've rebranded NFTs to RWAs now, haven't we? So it's gone from non-fungible tokens to real-world assets. So that's excellent. Well, welcome aboard.
That's
anyway,
exactly that's what I'm primarily working on is, like you said, rebranding NFTs, making new technology around NFTs.
Cool, excellent. And we're joined by the legendary Elvis. Hey, Elvis, great to see you. Come and join us. I think Elvis has said for several weeks, "Oh, we'll come and join you," and then never does.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I'm happy to be here. I'm actually like waiting to see like what usually unfolds in these calls. So yeah, nice to meet you, Gary.
Fantastic. These sessions, for those who've been on the calls previously, so I won't reintroduce Stuart or Gabriella or Annie because they're kind of, and Ken for that matter, because they're all kind of regulars. But these sessions tend to take on whatever route we end up going down. I try to encourage us to stay in the crypto space, but there's so much going on with crypto, whether that's the technology behind it, so like blockchains or crypto wallets and cryptography. Sometimes we talk about that, layer 1, layer 2 solutions. Then sometimes we'll talk about DeFi, the metaverse, even central bank digital currencies, which I know, technically speaking, aren't crypto. But there's such an overlap in understanding and everything. So they go whichever way the audience want to take this conversation, to be honest. So if there's something in particular you'd like to ask about or share, this is a great opportunity to do it.
Okay, let me show myself. But before I do, I'm going to like give a bit of backstory. So when I was looking into the strategic reserve, I think Trump's new proposal for a strategic reserve, I'm not quite sure if it's a proposal or like it's one of those executive orders or whatever it is. So when I was looking into it, I was thinking whether I was going to create some content concerning like Cardano in particular, because I would say for a lot of the people I know, or lots of people personally, Cardano has been sort of written off. I worked with Project Say last year, and actually we were considering a couple of chains. A couple of what I say novel chains that had some somewhat advanced technology, or at least had some sort of a cult base of ownership. Yeah, we're just looking at people that already had a bit of a cult base of ownership. Cardano came up, but then we sort of laughed it off because we thought, yeah, nobody's going to use our product if we launched on Cardano. And today it's appearing like it's going to be part of this strategic reserve, and it's crazy actually. So anyways, back to what I was saying, like a large part of what I actually do, I'm mostly a marketeer. So yes, everything in the whole spectrum of full stack marketing, from KOLs to community building to launches, token launches to creation of content. Actually, that's a thing I would say is a hobby right now. I do it so much that I could pretty much do it for free. That's why I was thinking perhaps I should make some content on how Cardano went from an absolute laughing stock to where it is currently, I feel like I am the laughing stock right now because I mean, who's laughing now?
It is
Who's
nice.
laughing now?
Elvis, where about you based, by the way?
Yeah, yeah.
No, sorry. So where are you based?
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm based in Lagos, Nigeria.
Okay, cool. Makes a nice change because we've got Stuart, if I remember correctly, is on the west coast. Jeff, you say it was Puerto Rico that you're currently in, Jeff?
Costa
Ah,
Rica.
nice.
Costa Rica. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Puerto
Yeah.
Rico. I lived in Puerto Rico for a while.
Cool.
What
Okay.
part of
Excellent.
Costa Rica?
Montezuma is where my yoga center is, but I'm in San Jose right now.
Okay, I know it.
Cool. So there you go. So a really international audience, and Annie's in the UK, Gabrielle's usually in Spain, Ken's in the UK, and then we've got someone that says iPhone, which I think is the people who've had the camera on with the beer before. Do you want to introduce yourselves, iPhone? This is where they're frantically scrabbling for the mute button now. Oh, I'm sorry, David. Yeah, I didn't ask where you were, David. Okay. So Portugal, excellent. Okay, and it looks like we're being joined by someone else as well. Okay, let's keep this rolling anyway because it's really interesting. I did pop up as Elvis was mentioning, and when he was talking through, there's this latest announcement about the US kind of strategic reserve, where they're talking about including various cryptocurrencies. So kind of like instead of just having Fort Knox for gold or allegedly having gold, the US government's talking about having a strategic reserve of cryptocurrencies. And Elvis was mentioning this was announced by Trump. I think Trump does a mixture of things. He sometimes does executive orders and sometimes he does tweets. And they seem to carry the same weight in our world. So he put out this tweet a little while ago saying that they're doing some stuff, but it is going to be linked to an executive order around digital assets. And he's hoping to make the US the crypto capital of the world, which is going to come as a surprise to Singapore, South Korea, Switzerland, the UK, and many other countries, I would imagine. So we'll see where that goes. That's interesting.
Gary, sorry, it's only a proposal. It's
Okay.
not a de facto. They're going to have a commission on it, and they've got various people that they've tapped into to give proposals. But right at the moment, there's nothing there.
Fair enough. I think with many of these things, it's sometimes that the announcement just gets made. And it's interesting. I see this quite a lot in the UK, where they don't even make the announcement. They just start spreading the rumor of what they might be doing. And they use it as a way simply of gauging opinion. I think with this, it's probably a bit further, but that's interesting. That's sure. Thanks. Okay. And iPhone's coming back on camera again, which is great. They're now blurred, and they are waving, but they need to sort the focus on the camera out. Come on, iPhone, come off mute. Tell us who you are and where you are. I'm intrigued now.
They look like a committee, actually, like a conference room with lots of people sitting around the table.
I think you're right. Come on, they've come off mute. Tell us who you are. Where are you?
Well, there are three of us in France at the moment who have a medium interest in crypto. I'm not sure how we got the link to this conversation, but
Okay.
we got the link to the conversation from a friend, so we're just joining. But we feel that we're probably a bit unqualified to comment, hence the muting of things. But we're here just for a bit of knowledge.
Don't worry. The great thing about crypto is that everyone is always learning. We've got some people on this call who've have probably got experience since almost the start of crypto, and I'm sure they'll acknowledge that they're still learning things. I've only been in this space since 2014, so what's that? 12 years? 11 years, and I'm constantly learning. So it's great. The thing I like about crypto is you never stop learning about crypto. And it also helps you learn more about the fiat or traditional money worlds as well. I've probably learned more about traditional money since getting into crypto as I have about crypto. So anyway, guys and gals or whoever you are, because I can't actually see because you're blurred again, welcome, stick around. If you've got any questions, do ask away. And don't worry about you think, oh, this is a bit of a dumb question. They're usually the best ones, the more basic ones. And I find it fascinating that it's actually more interesting answering some of the basic questions than it is some of the more ethereal ones. So Cool. Well, welcome aboard anyway. And we've been joined by, it says, I'm going to pronounce this wrongly, in which case I'll apologize straight away, MD Mijanar Raham Chowdhury. Did I get anywhere near right with that? You're going to come off mute and say hi?
Hi, Gary. This is Mizan.
Okay.
You can call me Mizan. I think
Mizan,
I got this link from Off-Chain Dubai.
okay.
From this group, and I joined this for the first time today.
Fantastic. And are you in Dubai?
No, I'm in London at the
Okay,
moment.
because I was just thinking it's well after midnight now in Dubai. That's cool. Well,
Yeah.
welcome aboard. Any particular interest? You say you came on from the Off-Chain Dubai group. Do you have a particular interest?
I think Off-Chain Dubai and Off-Chain London, from both group. I'm linked with Daniel, so probably that's how I'm on Off-Chain London.
Okay,
So
cool.
I'm as it is the first day for me today, so I'm just listening, and I'm on crypto as well for last few months. I'm learning and coping with these at the moment.
Fantastic. Well, as I was saying with the others, if you do have any questions, do fire away, or if there's anything you want to share, that's cool as well. Brilliant. We've also got Elena who's just joined us. Elena used to be really good at asking the really basic questions, but she now knows so much that she doesn't ask the basic ones anymore. But I will offer in return now, if anyone wants to know about the metaverse, then I think Elena is one of the leading experts in that space now. So
Thank you so much, Gary. My my heart skipped a bit when you said I used to be so good.
no, you've turned into being an expert in your own right, which is fantastic to see the development there. It's really good. Folks, I'm going to open it up then. You've now heard who some of the people are. Anyone got any questions or anything they'd like to share?
I have one question for Elena. Sorry, Elvis. Elena, what's the maximum number of people that can be hosted in the metaverse at the current time? Because you're segmented into rooms. Each room used to be 100. I need something for 6.5 million people.
Oh my
I can
God.
actually answer that question too.
Okay.
I don't have an answer to this question, but next week at 7 p.m. I will.
Okay.
Which reminds me, quickly,
I can-
just before Jeff gives the actual answer.
Yeah.
Very rarely next week we are not going to be having one of these sessions, which is a real shame because it looks like the momentum's building up really well. Unfortunately, I can't make it next week, so unless someone else wants to host it in some way, I'm afraid we're probably going to have to cancel next Sunday's session. I'm really sorry about that. So, but back to Jeff. Go on, Jeff. You've got the answer.
Yeah, so I'm actually the founder of virtualrealitytimes.com, which is one of the top early VR metaverse blogs. And before I was doing crypto, and I'm an advisor now to Otherverse with a U. They actually have the patent on the technology, a global patent on the exact technology you just talked about. And they recently launched a coin, but nobody knew about it. And almost nobody in the crypto space knows about it because they've been doing metaverse for 18 years. So they were like competing with Second Life back when Second Life was created. And so they actually have the patent on that exact technology. And it's their patent portfolio is backed by SoftBank and by Apple. So Apple owns a third, SoftBank owns a third, and Otherverse owns the other third. But it's weird because nobody's heard about them. They're actually suing right now Epic Games because of that exact technology being violated by Fortnite. When Fortnite used to do concerts, it violated their patent. So they have like a 9-digit lawsuit against Fortnite and Epic Games over that. But they have the technology for that. So they're a good one to talk to. If you're looking for somebody to do that, they can do it.
Where are
you know
they?
them? So Otherverse is in Canada. They're in the founders in Vancouver. And if you reach out to me, I'll put you in touch with them.
I'll link with you on LinkedIn.
Yeah. Yeah,
Do they
they have the exact technology you want, and they have something called a sovereign, which can give you like your own white label metaverse that can do any volume. They've had millions of people in their various metaverses over the 18 years. So
Okay.
it's quite good what they have.
Cool. All right, I'll send you.
Fantastic. And that's the great thing about these sessions. Sometimes it's about connecting people to other people who know the answer to questions. So that's cool. Okay, Elvis, you kindly had your hand up. Did you want to ask something or share something?
Yes, so it's concerning the strategic reserve. So I think generally I would say it's a narrative, if I'll call it that, something I've not exactly researched a lot about. So there's a few things I want to know from the fiat side of things. Number one, isn't like the entire point of a fiat currency the fact that there isn't any more underlying assets that sort of support the value of the currency currently? Because it used to have the gold standard, right? There used to be the gold standard up till I think the 70s or something, and then like it was removed, and then we had pretty much what we have now, a fiat system. It's not exactly reserved by anything. So I want to know, like, if it's that sort of situation where there are assets needed to back up the strength of the dollar. And if that's the case, isn't it supposed to be a function of the Federal Reserve and not exactly something that should be done via executive power? I just want to know, like, if I'm assuming things, I would like hear from somebody else.
Anyone want to pitch in on that? I'm always willing to talk about these things, but I'll open it up to others.
Yeah, me too, but I don't want to hog the microphone.
I mean, Elvis, I was going to start off. The reason I'm leaning over at the moment is I'm trying to find one of the original tokens. Well, this is an older token. I've been using these for a few years. There's some sort of token. This one says it's worth £5, which is five English pounds or £5 British or whatever. Does anyone know why this is worth £5 out of interest, for those who can see? Any offers? What actually makes it worth £5? This is what I love. This is where I talk about going back to basics of traditional money. And this one's worth 10. So for some reason, if it's a brown one, it's worth more than the green one type thing. Let's stick with this one. Anyone know why it's worth £5?
Collective hallucination.
Yeah. I think that's as good an answer as any. That this £5 is worth £5 because enough people believe it's worth £5, and it is simply that thing that as long as enough people think it's worth £5 and are willing to exchange it, it's worth £5. It's not actually backed by anything other than government support in that perception, or as Jeff describes it, as a hallucination. So when we talk about stable coins or government-backed crypto, that is quite interesting because it does go back to, as Elvis mentioned before, we used to have what was called gold standard, which was ultimately that there were deposits of physical gold in a vault, and the notes on them, when they used to say in the UK, "I promise to pay the bearer," actually related to a gold deposit, but that went away for most countries by the 1970s when it was established. So I think the idea of stablecoins now, they're trying to reintroduce that concept of linking a physical underlying asset in some way to a token. So the token being this or whatever, except it's not just a physical underlying asset this time. It's potentially linking to another token, and that token might be Ethereum, Cardano, Bitcoin, or whatever. So it's kind of funny there that you've got a token representing another token or a collection of them, but for some reason people kind of like that. I don't know, does that go in some way to answering the question, Elvis?
It does. I also wanted to know if like there's a difference between that or maybe most countries for the sake of would I say rainy days or whatever, they always have a a reserve of some kind. So for some people, it's foreign currencies. For some people, it's gold. So I wanted to know if this is that, or just pertaining to the currency, just to strengthen the USD itself.
No, I mean, Jeff, you were going to come in on the thing before. Do you want to add anything there? Or
Well,
Jim?
I was going to say a lot of the value of the currency is based on the force of will of the government behind it, right? Like with the US dollar being the strongest currency in the world, there's a lot to be said for, the US government's willingness to invade countries like Libya and Iraq that, sort of try to defy and go against the dollar standard, right? And now with Trump in power, he's saying that kind of thing, like and he's been threatening BRICS countries and saying, if you don't like, we're going to put 100% tariffs on your country and this kind of thing. So the force of will of a country is very strong if you think about what backs the value of currency. And so if you're a small country like Costa Rica, what you try to do is just sort of tie your currency to the US dollar, which is what they do, and try to stay friends. Actually, by weird coincidence, I ran into the president of Costa Rica yesterday. He was walking his dogs at a golf course. I went to a friend. I had no idea who he was, and we had some pretty interesting conversations about this. And he was telling me that he's friends with Trump, and that's why he's doing various things, making sure Costa Rica is staying, in the good side of Trump right now. And a lot of countries are going to do that, and I think that's part of his strategy. And so for currencies right now, what Trump is saying and how in his sort of force of will of being willing to be crazy or scary or whatever is going to have a lot of effect on currency values and crypto values. I mean, that's kind of what we were here to talk about today, right?
Cool.
So,
okay, Jimmy, you put your hand up. What are you going to add on there?
Yeah, sorry, I'm kind of heavy day tonight, but I was going to say, I think, just to reiterate your point about the idea of effectively value is what people are prepared to believe it's worth. And I think that is, from a psychology point of view, not just about the fact that we've been told that's what it's worth and it's accepted as that's what that piece of paper is worth. Actually, I think it's about repetition, and we have decided what is safe and what isn't safe. And what is safe, in most people's views, is money in the traditional bank, and the idea that I can see on my app that money is there, and almost that sort of Harry Potter bank style of believing that actually, that gold is there, rather than it just being numbers. And interesting, when I talk to crypto to people, it's the concept that it scares them, is that there's no physical tangibility. But of course, there is no physical tangibility in money anyway. And that's going to be the challenge as things go forward, that actually, no, safety is within cryptography and within numbers and not within your bank. And that's something. So I just think, take it from another side. I think it's that psychology thing of the masses being comfortable with where their money is, if that makes sense.
I think you're right, and it's something in the crypto world. I always find it interesting when I get approached a lot about, hey, do you know about this new crypto that's being launched, and we're doing these mining contracts or whatever. And it always sounds a little bit dubious. And they start saying, oh, yeah, I can see how much money I'm making each day, and I'm making 3% a day or whatever. And you go, you're actually making 3% a day. Well, that's incredible. How do you know you're making 3% a day? And they say, well, I've got this mobile phone app, and it shows the numbers going up each day. And they never think, that might be just someone with an Excel spreadsheet in the background just updating the numbers. So it looks like it's going up. And when you then apply that to, well, actually, there's nothing with a traditional bank, aside from the credibility and reputation and whatever, where that's really any different. And the main difference, I guess, with what's coming up with central bank digital currencies and that, is it's going to be that same fiction. It's just that it's backed by aircraft carriers and soldiers and B-52 bombers and everything, which make people feel a little bit safer with it. But it's interesting as well, and we talk about this quite a lot on these sessions, where people talk about their money in the bank. Well, actually, that's a falsehood straight away, because as soon as it goes into a bank, it's no longer your money. You've actually loaned them it, and it ceases legally in most countries to be yours. So maybe that's another conversation we can revisit another day again. Well, I just noticed we've been joined by, is it Pascale? Pascale? Who's good enough to come on cameras. That's great.
How are you?
Hey, good.
I just arrived, so I'm listening, and I'll comment anytime or I have question. I'll send a question.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Do just join in. This is open forum, open format. We end up talking about wherever we end up going with these things. That's cool.
Yes,
Whereabouts are you based, Pascale? Sorry.
I'm in London.
Okay, sorry. And then Annie, were you about to ask something there?
Not asking just yet. I think just now the conversation about, stable coins and stuff like that, I do know something that I can contribute to. So basically, tokenization, they rather have something like stable coins where it's actually tagged to a currency. And what Jimmy said on the psychology perspective is actually quite is what is happening there. The reason is that Bitcoins go up and down quite significantly. So the reason then with the tokenization process is that it's better to have something that is kind of more stable. That's why it's called stable coins. I suppose that's why it is named that way,
No,
isn't it?
actually, no, it's not. The concept of a stable coin is that the value of it is stabilized against the underlying assets.
Yeah, that is what I mean.
Okay.
So it's probably that's why it's tagged to US dollar, for example. Maybe in the future it might tag to other currency, but it's quite interesting that worldwide people seems to trust US dollar more. I mean, for example, Hong Kong also tag its own currency against US dollar, for example. So that is another country that would tag along with USD. So is it, Jeff, you're trying to say something before I continue? No. Okay. Well, I do have one question to ask, only because this forum is full of people who are extremely experienced. So cryptography is something that I have already come across. So from my understanding, the way it works is that the public key is what identifying yourself. You don't need to expose your private key. So in terms of how tokenization works, where it means that you're not just transacting Bitcoins now, you're transacting probably, a property or I don't know, some sort of a service, not just about buying Bitcoins or selling Bitcoins, okay? My understanding is that the other party identify you from your public key, not your private key. So there is no need to share a private key information for transaction to happen. Is that correct?
Nearly. So you never share a private key. However, the private key is used in a signing process, whereby when you make a crypto transaction of, I send you a Bitcoin or something, when I put that through my wallet, then my wallet has software in it that takes my private key and does a digital signature against that transaction, which can be easily reversed to prove that I do own the private key. So it's a form of verification. So you never share the private key, but you do share the signature of it. So the
public key, isn't it?
You share the public key, but then everyone knows the public key. So think about this. I'm trying to think of some places you can go to. You know these post office box places you can go to where there's lots of like PO boxes, like little safes or whatever in the wall. Well, imagine they've all got a public key or an address, which is like box 1, box 2, box 3, and so on.
Everybody can see it.
Okay, and anyone can post something into the front of that box. Okay, kind of like drops down a chute.
Yep.
Okay, so imagine it drops down a chute for box 1 or whatever. But the private key only allows the person at the back of the box to actually open it. Okay, so that's one way of thinking. It's a simplified version of a public key is kind of the address that it goes to, and the private key actually allows you to open it up and that. Well, if you're the owner of that box and you want to transfer it to another box, that's where you use your private key to then sign it to say, I am authorized to do this. So you don't ever show your private key, but you do say, here's my public key, and here's a digital signature, which is a cryptographic calculation. And for anyone who doesn't know, cryptography is simply the mathematics of keeping secrets. All right. Yeah. So it's very clever maths that proves things, and it tends to work really well that you can encrypt things and decrypt things.
Yeah.
And with transactional signatures, the way that the cryptography is designed, so like SHA-256 you might have heard of, for example, or ECDSC is I think it's elliptic curve signature, is that it is very easy to prove that the signature has been correctly signed by the person with the public key. So you don't use the public key to sign it, you use the private key to sign it, but because of mathematics, you kind of reverse engineer it, and it's a good way of validating that you are who you are, unless you're Bybit and you're an exchange and you get hacked in some way, and the smart contract that manages all of that gets hacked, and it all goes to pot, which is what happened a few weeks ago. But in general, yeah, you never show your private key, but you use the private key to sign something, and you can reverse engineer a public key and a transaction signature to prove that you are the person who owns that.
Okay, so then the person who received your signature, so they can't be the one who try to get to hack into your private key through your signature.
You can't generally reverse engineer unless
it's only one way.
Yeah, unless we're beginning to talk about quantum. Please do, Sue.
Yeah, essentially, when you a signature is basically a number of bits on the chain, and it's represented by hash values.
Yep.
You understand?
Only go one way. Yeah, only go one way.
So your private key reads that public key, says it's valid, it's coming to me. It creates a series of hashes for your signature to say that this is acceptable, and it goes on to the next destination, which may be a payment or it may be a sequential transaction.
Yeah, absolutely. That is how I understand it. Yeah.
Yeah. And Annie, to then extend that, because I think you were talking about tokenization and real world assets.
Yeah, because I'm on an advisory role, but not for security, but it's just I happen to be in the conversation where security was involved, and because I do know cryptography myself and cybersecurity, I was kind of curious as to why, they talk about sharing the private key, because I thought you don't need to. That is the reason why you have the public key, because the public key is the one that identify you. And then I just thought that you are able to do the transaction without having to reveal your private key, because otherwise that is wrong.
You don't reveal your private key. Oh, and the other thing as well, we're talking like real world assets and tokenization there. I was talking about these PO boxes for a minute, where you put something down the chute. Imagine it's actually a transparent PO box, and what you can see inside it is share certificates. Okay, so you can see them, and they can be deposited into that PO box, and everyone can see that PO box has got those share certificates. Yeah. Those share certificates now represent, shares in BP or fine art or whatever. It is a kind of an analogy that kind of holds on that as well.
Absolutely, yeah. Okay.
Everyone agree? I've got that roughly right? Yeah. Close enough?
Now you're going to do zero knowledge proofs?
Oh, no.
That's not
there is actually a really important thing on zero knowledge proofs. That's the ability to prove that the answer you've been given is correct without actually knowing the underlying thing. So a simplified version of it might be, if you go into a place that serves alcohol, for example, and they ask for your ID, they ask for that because generally your ID has got your date of birth on it. Okay, they don't actually need to know your date of birth. All they need to know is that you're old enough to buy alcohol. Okay, so with a zero knowledge proof, what you can do is you can do a computational thing to prove that you are old enough to buy alcohol without providing your date of birth. Okay, and that's really cool because it means you can verify that somebody knows the answer to a question and therefore must have the originating data without actually demonstrating the originating data. I don't know, is anyone going to disagree with me on that one? Is that simple enough?
You mean you just provide your hexadecimal password? That is how you prove your age.
That would be one way, but that can be reverse engineered. And that's the problem. And this is where you want it. Cryptography is very good at giving one-way mathematics, where it's very easy to calculate in one direction and incredibly difficult to calculate in the other direction. If you want me to do a session on elliptic curve cryptography at some point, which is fascinating again, which is again it's a way of proving in one direction very quickly, but pretty much impossible to reverse it. It's a fascinating thing.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
JT is saying it's not.
ECC is flawed, NSA dropped all of that in 2009. So, forget it. ECC, it's not good. People need to move away from it.
Yeah. That's a valid thing from JT. For most of the audience, however, who probably haven't gone past a degree in mathematics, though, it is quite complicated. But yep, it is getting easier and easier. And no one's mentioned quantum computing and what that's going to do to cryptography yet.
Well, I like David Saunders' comment there. Let's now go on to layer 2. Let's
not.
Let's not.
David, if you want to talk about layer 2s, and I'll let someone else lead on that. My thinking, you find people, they talk about layer 1 and layer 2 blockchain solutions. I'm a purist. I think once it goes off the blockchain, you've lost the point. So when you start talking about layer 2 solutions, which is basically doing everything off chain because you haven't solved it on chain. So I'm not a great fan of layer 2 solutions. And in terms of ZK rollups, I'll maybe invite Anish Mohammed or somebody to come and give a talk on that sometime, because that is beyond me. Unless, David, do you want to share some insights, but keep it simple for people?
No, not in the least. But I was simply throwing out a spanner into the works for the fun of it.
It's all right. It's always fascinating that at least I hold myself up of facilitating these sessions, and everyone loves to ask me to test my knowledge. But I'm always willing to say when I don't know, and that's definitely an area I don't know. So. Excellent. Right, opening it back up again. It was quite ethereal for a while. Any other thoughts, subjects, hot off the press news? Anything else going on that people want to share or ask about?
Did you guys saw Donald Trump announcement like a few hours ago?
We were talking about that with his tweet about his executive order of the reserve with multiple currencies going into it as an idea.
Yeah, that's the one, exactly.
Yeah. See, this shows to everybody. People say a week is a long time in politics. 30 minutes in crypto is a long time. That JT joined late, he missed out, and we've already covered it off.
I can actually tell an interesting inside story of how this came about, because Trump was originally against Bitcoin, and because all this came about because of people in Costa Rica that I know. And one of them over beer told me like the inside story, so I can tell you guys if you want to hear it. If you look online at how this happened, there is a story about a group of Puerto Rican Bitcoin and crypto fans who knew somebody who got a meeting with Trump and convinced him to do all of this. That's like the public story. But before that, there was something else, which is what one of my friends told me, which is that basically, and it's very interesting. 10 guys from Puerto Rico, they all put in $10 million. They committed $10 million each to make a fund. And this is what he told me. He said, we committed $10 million. We put it all in a fund together, and we called through contacts, Nancy Pelosi, who's like, the head of the Democrats in Congress, and then somebody on the Republican side. And they said, look, we've decided to do a $100 million crypto support fund, but we're not going to spend one penny on promoting crypto. All of this money is going to go into negative ads against any person on either side of the political fence who is anti-crypto. We're going to hire the best researchers. We're going to dig up dirt on you guys, and we're going to run negative ads so you don't win your next elections. And we don't care if you're Republican or Democrat. And he told me about this, and then he showed me, like, literally the next day, both parties did announcements that they were real. Like Nancy Pelosi said something about, we're going to reevaluate the whole crypto thing, and then Trump decided to go and speak at the Bitcoin thing in I guess it was in Tennessee or something, like Nashville. I think it was in Nashville, right? And he was telling me this at Consensus when we were there, and that all had happened literally that day. And he was like really proud. He was really proud, and he said the funny thing is we didn't have to spend any money. We just put it in the fund and then told them what we were going to do, and they both just changed course. So that's how it happened. And so Trump decided to go there, and they met with other people. One thing led to the next, and then it's sort of put both parties down a different road. So that's my
Excellent. Thanks for sharing it. And it links quite nicely for those who are following the news at the moment. David kind of made a comment on this on the chat as well. Trump's actually holding a crypto roundtable at the White House next week, which could be quite interesting. March 7th, they've announced. And they're going to be there talking about the working group on digital assets. And we'll see where that goes. And this is why crypto at the moment, for those who are following it, took a bit of a leap earlier on today, around about 3 o'clock this afternoon, which may well have been tied in with that announcement. Bitcoin had been hovering fairly statically around about the 85,000 mark, and then suddenly did this big leap where it went up from 85 to 95. So what's that? It's 10% in just a few hours. I think that ties in with the announcement of that session, and also the announcement of this strategic reserve as well. So, as I say, 30 minutes in crypto is a long time.
The announcement of the meeting on the 7th came out earlier this week.
So it wasn't that then?
Yeah, it wasn't that, because we were looking for the invites.
So the last time Trump or anyone did something on that, they were offering tickets at the table for, I think it was $66,000 each, if I remember correctly. So maybe you just need to put your bid in, Stuart, and you get your invite.
We'll see. I'll let you know if I get one.
Cool, excellent. Well, if you do come back in a couple of weeks and tell us all about it. Sorry, Annie.
Yeah, I was about to say whether, our American friends are all going to that meeting on next week.
Only if I get an invite.
So I was actually on the waiting list, but I didn't get in. And but now I'm waiting to see if there's any other parties and stuff like this. So if there's any parties, and I've told them, like, if there's anything going on, Brock Pierce has a big house there, and he has events and stuff. So he's likely to be sending, to be having parties, events, gatherings. He loves to do that kind of thing. And so if there's anything going on, I'll probably go there and be there. So.
Cool. And I just want to correct myself. I actually made a mistake a minute ago when I said that the last Trump event was $60,000 per ticket. I was out by an order of magnitude of tenfold. So there you go. $844,600 if you wanted to go to that was an event that Trump was allegedly organizing last year. I didn't quite make it. Like Stuart, I didn't get my invite in time, unfortunately. So never mind. maybe next year, folks. We've got 10 minutes left. We're flying by here. Really conscious. We got some new people joined. We've got some familiar faces. Lots of news going on, as we say, with Trump being very giving indications, at least, of being very crypto friendly. But I was curious, anything else going on in the world we need to know about right now? Crypto-wise, that is.
Well, I think the most important thing right now is what's going to happen because of the market suddenly jumping up. Like I saw a post by one of my partners in one of my businesses. It's like, okay, depending on what happens tomorrow, based on what happened today, we have a project we're launching, and he's going to put it on the calendar for like 3 weeks from now. So I think a lot of people have been waiting for a trigger, right? Where all of a sudden so I think that if it keeps going up tomorrow, you're going to see all kinds of stuff happen. There's so many people that have been building tech and putting off their launches, and there's going to be a lot of stuff happening in like 3 or 4 weeks as people now get all their marketing going. And everybody's going to be on phones with all the KOLs trying to get them to hype their stuff, right? Yeah. So that's what's going to be really interesting to see what happens.
I mean, it's proof as well. People sometimes talk about how cryptos are uncorrelated from each other, but if you look at what's actually going on in the crypto market at the moment, I've just popped up the numbers with Bitcoin, Ethereum, Ripple. They're all following the same pattern. Where in the last few hours, there's been this marked leap up as they're all behaving in line with each other. And it just goes to prove the point that actually people say, oh yeah, all these cryptos are completely uncorrelated. The majority of them are actually very closely correlated. So when Bitcoin goes up or Ethereum goes up or they go down, they generally tend to go up in step phase. The ones that don't are the ones that maybe are more like stable coins, or that they have some completely different purpose. So Hyperliquid I'm not even familiar with, but that doesn't seem to be showing this sudden leap that a lot of the others are. So thought that was an interesting point.
Yeah, I think it has a lot to do with whether they're on Binance and whether they're on Coinbase and whether they're thus part of very big sort of algorithmically traded portfolios. So the moment one thing goes up, they all go up at the same time because millions of bots out there all just start buying them and trading them, right? So it's feel like the currency I founded, we're not on any of the big ones. So when these things kind of happen, we often don't see these kind of effects. And all the people that still have are like, why everything's going up? Why isn't Divi going up, right? And we're like, well, then I have to explain like how it works.
Cool. So. Folks, we want the audience participation here. What are the stuff?
It just caused me to think just now, your comment, Jeff. I think it's almost like, when you're choosing your pension pot, when you're being presented, if you work in a corporate company, right, you have this pension scheme and they ask you, which one you want, whether you go, whether you're a risk taker or you're not, right? And those who are not a risk taker would take those things that sounds like just cash, means that whatever that interest rate for those cashes, which usually is very low because they're very stable. And then the risk taker would go for shares that goes up and down. So it's almost like, that sort of correlation from your points earlier, Jeff.
Yeah, well, it's also important for crypto. A lot of people don't understand that if you're like looking at meme coins, the goal of a meme coin founder is to create enough of a value and that they get into Binance and that they get into these algorithmically traded bots, which will create a lot of liquidity on its own. And so it's like trying to hit escape velocity with your coin. Like if it spikes up, it'll fall back down. But if you can stay up there long enough, you kind of leave the orbit of shit going status and you become a real coin. You become a Pepe or something like this. And so when people often tell me like, well, all these things are just going to fall back down. And I explain to them like, no, they will never fall back down. If you get into Binance and start getting into these algorithmically traded portfolios, then you've escaped shitcoin status and you basically will stay up there forever. And that's why there's all these coins out there like Dash, which like nobody uses it, but it's still like very valuable. It's still in the hundreds of millions of dollars, even though some of them don't have even an active dev team, right? But they stay up there because they've sort of reached that escape velocity. So as a meme coin creator, that's basically your goal, right? To get there. Then you become famous enough that the fame, the celebrity of it is like the Kardashians. It has its own value.
And I think that's a really good point as well. You hear people talking, again, it goes back to conversation at the beginning about what actually backs what assets there are that actually back things, and it proves that once you achieve more than a certain level of market size, then actually it's a self-fulfilling thing. It doesn't need to have any value.
Right. Celebrity is its own value.
Yeah.
Right.
But rather like fiat money, as I was showing before, it ends up that tokens are worth what they're worth because enough other people do. It's a market. So it's fascinating. It is, as you say, it's kind of like they reach escape velocity once they get a certain size. And that's it. They don't need a purpose anymore. They just get traded. And it goes back to where I described Pokemon cards, for those who know the little cards that kids used to play with. They get traded in playgrounds. They've got no underlying value. But if enough other people want a particular card, it's going to have a premium against it. And that's kind of crypto is that on a grand scale, but with lots more opportunity and technology behind it. So.
Yeah, Pokemon cards are very interesting and a good example. So if you have a Series 1 Pokemon cards, some of them are valued between $5 and $7 million. That's how good they are, exactly, if they are in good condition.
Oh, yeah. Well, the value of fame is very high. You know, the Winnie the Pooh is worth as much as like all the La Liga football teams put together. It's like incredible, because when you have like a cartoon figure that everybody knows since they were children, I mean, you can imagine the value. It's worth like $100 billion, the value of Winnie the Pooh. And they're not even number one. If you look at cartoons, you can see the ones behind me. I mean, people have no idea like how much these things can be worth.
I just popped up for the benefit of people as well what Pokemon cards actually look like. And they're all these little characters and creatures. And some of them are at a premium and some of them just die away.
Yeah, the Pokemon IP is also worth about $100 billion.
That is impressive.
Yeah.
And it goes to show that if there's a market for something, you don't need this concept of fundamental value or anything. It's as long as there's a market value, as long as there's a market in something, it kind of goes.
It's called collectibles for a reason, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Right, folks, we've only got a couple of minutes left. So, any final things from anyone? Annie, have you got any of your final questions? Or Elena usually does right at the beginning, what you said is. Any final questions from anybody?
I just have a final observation, if I may. I've been reading quite a bit this last week about some of the things people usually predict markets come about, and some are saying prepare for a ride in March, quite big. So let's see, I'm quite hopeful, to be honest, and I think everything starts to make sense because, look, people got scared when Bitcoin went to 78, 80, but it's normal, you need to shake up a little bit, and that's what a lot of these bots were doing. And people forgot that the US is going to head to the Treasury, other countries as well. There's already a state in the US that passed a legislation that they will add Bitcoin and others to their treasury as well. So many family offices, sovereign funds already said when it kicks in, it's going to be insane, I think, And I think we're pretty much there, to be frank,
I think, as I always say, we're not going to offer financial advice or investment advice.
It's not a financial advice. We all know that, it's just say what I've been reading about what some people are saying,
Yeah, but I think we're in store with some crazy times coming up. So it's going to be really interesting, as they say, watch this space. And
I agree.
It's an exciting area. As Annie was saying, when you speak to financial advisors about pensions or this kind of thing, they talk about your risk appetite. And it's like anyone who's into crypto, you can forget having a low risk appetite. They're generally really interested for the opportunity. So, folks, really sorry. I realize we just got people joining at the last minute as well. really need to finish. I cut these off on the hour. So thank you, as always, to the really interesting conversation. Thank you for everyone who came along today and was just listening as well. No session next week. Well, unfortunately, I'm not available. We'll kick off the week after again. Be really good to speak to everyone again and see where Bitcoin is in 2 weeks, because it'll probably be somewhere different after the March the 7th. We'll see how it goes. So thank you, everybody. Have a great day. Have a great morning, afternoon, evening, or whatever. Speak to you again. Bye now.
Thank you, everybody. Nice meeting everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.